Hello, everybody. This is going to be both boring and really short, as there's not that much specifically to cover over. So there's chance after everything's done, that's not going to take that long to talk about. I'm going to do more boring stuff, like looking at some of the fictional world maps and everything related to Dream War, the whole indie animation project thing I want to start. So I'll wait a few minutes for people to start showing up, and I should probably pull up the bookmarks just in case I want to use them. Most of it is footage of stuff burning. There's no strikes or anything. There's no moment of death stuff, which that I have to avoid showing on stream, as for the most part, nothing's really been happening. Supposedly the war was going to restart, but then it wasn't, then it was again, now it isn't, supposedly, because now there's another new deal that has supposedly been proposed that we'll speak about in a second, but it's going to probably come to as much of nothing as the previous few attempts throughout the ceasefire, but we'll have to see. Man, I really should have taken some Sudafed before. My nose is really clogging itself. All right, do we have anybody? We don't. This is just starting to catch up. All right, I'm going to get started anyways, regardless of how many people are or are not here. So, to start off, since people mostly be coming for the Iran war stuff, start off with the few Ukraine-Russia update things. Ukraine did a really long range strike on one of the Russian oil pipelines, uh, pipeline network pumping stations, as throughout any country's pipeline network. I'll just draw some random spiderweb stuff. There is along the pipelines. There's obviously various points where there are pumping stations because you have to actually force the oil to move. It's after several dozen kilometers of pipeline, pressure alone won't really keep it moving. So one of the pumping stations out here in Perm, around the Ural Mountains area, was struck a few times. That's Tuapse, that's Tuapse. Where's the Perm stuff? That's Tuapse. There's Perm, full black sky event. So the pumping station and the refinery were correct. The refinery had to shut down by about a third of capacity. The pumping station has had to stop sending oil further west along that particular pipeline. The other two-thirds of the refinery in that particular city can still run because the parts of the pipeline that deliver oil into that refinery's area are okay. It's the pumping station that keeps sending it to the rest of Western Russia that was specifically struck. And down in Tuapse, down there, which is a smaller export terminal, you guys remember from last stream, talked about how that got hit so many times and is still still burning actually. And now, after the storage terminal and the refinery area were effectively removed from the map, now they've returned. Ukraine's resumed striking the actual export terminal at the harbor, uh, just just in case they do manage to like repair the infrastructure of the store, like the storage tanks and the refinery, too quickly. So they've now, as of last night, started striking the actual export terminal. But it was not going to be exporting anything for quite a while, anyways, because the storage terminals, pipelines, and the refinery portion were struck. Like I said, Tuapse is a smaller export terminal. It's about a 250,000 barrel per day one, as opposed to Novorossiysk up here, which is closer to like I think 1 million barrels per day, or it's either just above it or just under it. Tuapse is only 250,000, but Tuapse also specifically exports the refined oil products, not the unrefined crude itself. And I think there was one other one other target that was getting struck, but I do not recall which one it was. But you got some billowing flame stuff from the pumping station in Perm. More footage from Perm. I don't know if these are like separate ones, if the refinery area and the pumping station are like in separate areas from each other, or if they're all in that one little conglomerate right on top of each other. Uh, it's okay, Pam. That's still Pam. That's Pam. Okay, I don't think I have anything on which one's that? Is that's also Pam? I don't think I have anything on whatever the other the third thing was. I know the third thing was like it was a much smaller thing than either of those two. Ugh. Sorry, had to yawn, and I also got the hiccups literally right as I hit the start stream button. So if there's sudden like awkward pauses, I'm trying to keep it closed and make sure that I don't get hiccups onto the mic, like actually coming through the microphone. Uh, some additional good news for rerouting stuff that is going to definitely stay around even after the war's over, obviously, to avoid any of this happening again. So, apart from uh, Iraq and Turkey, because of the severity of the situation and the kind of disruptive threat this poses to the entire world, uh, foregoing their previous disputes that were keeping them from fully utilizing the Iraq-Turkey pipeline. So instead of the meager 200,000, they're actually going to be running that at capacity now at 600,000 barrels per day for as long as this lasts. Hopefully, they'll not resume arguing and keep doing that so that this doesn't get suddenly abandoned and fall into disarray. But that 600,000 that is bypassing Hormuz, and there's a small network that gets about 160,000 out of Iraq per day out through Syria. However, there is a to be repaired larger pipeline that Iraq used to have through Syria that actually is capable of carrying uh what was it? 1.2 million barrels per day, I think, which would max out the Mediterranean port anyways. But that one has not been used since the 2003 invasion. So that needs a lot of repair work. But as they're speed running everything, including now the new deal and pipeline project with Jordan, this one, the I think again 1.2 million barrel per day previous pipeline that already exists, but has a lot of issues along it and needs a lot of stuff replaced. Repairing and revamping that will be a lot quicker than building a new pipeline. This taking care of this should actually be able to be done before the end of this year, and they kind of just signed the check on that, so that is now getting underway. And in Syria also, they're starting to work on the portions over here where it comes into and connects to the Mediterranean port. They've been replacing segments and beginning to install like new pumping station systems and everything. So actually, uh, even if it runs a little bit behind schedule, which it probably will, and isn't done until like early next year, with the Turkish pipeline, the small network through Syria, and the 1.2 million barrel per day one, that should be a total of close to 2 million barrels per day that can then by the end of this year, or possibly if delays come by like or sometime next year, we'll be able then to be permanently bypassing the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. The pipeline through Jordan to the port of Aqaba, that one's is literally being built from the ground up, so that one's going to take a few years. But uh, many things are lined up and will be coming to fruition. Again, as already mentioned, Qatar and the UAE are now starting the blueprints and plans for a project to have a pipeline to get Qatar's exports, roughly 1 million barrel per day, that to be able to be piped down to the UAE into the UAE's network. And the UAE is going to be expanding their own pipe network over to the Port of Fujairah and is going to start laying the groundwork for expansions at the of the capacity of the Port of Fujairah, so that they and Qatar with them can bypass the Strait of Hormuz in the future. And Saudi Arabia already has the East-West pipeline, which they want to build an additional one, expand the capacity, etc. And Kuwait effectively had the three choices of they could either suck it up and get over the bad blood and ask to hook into the Iraq pipeline system and eventually get their stuff out through Jordan, or they could do a really awkward, long international waters subsea pipeline down to Bahrain and then through Qatar and into the UAE system, or they could bite a different pride bullet and offer to or ask to be able to hook down into the Saudi pipeline system, which is the one they chose. They have officially chosen to go with number three, and have said that they're going to start the planning work for a pipeline to go down from their fields into Saudi Arabia, which will then hook into the Saudis' expansion of the East-West pipeline system once that's up. So they chose the Saudi option. Uh, there were really no when you take Kuwait's pride into effect, at least there were no real good choices for them. Let's see, blockade remains in effect. The Iranian uh, Strait of Hormuz closure remains again partially in effect. They after the first few days of literally nothing, they have been letting 1 to 3 ships through per day in each direction. Sometimes one tanker and like two regular cargo ships. Sometimes two cargo ships and one tanker. The tankers that have been going through are ones that are going to India, China, and Japan and South Korea. So there was a supposed deal at the end of last week, remember, but then that got called off. And the supposed deal, according to each side, was at that time just that the other side had completely given in and giving them everything that they wanted. Now, there is supposedly a new one now that is, let's see, it was Iran is now willing to start agreeing to stuff without the what is it precondition without the precondition of the U.S. blockade ending, and they what was the one other the one other thing the one other thing they didn't back down on that much, but what was it uh the nuclear stuff they the what sorry they already were willing to sign the no nukes thing, but the point still being pressed by the US at the behest of Israel was no nuclear anything at all. I'm just going to X out Isfahan since that's where a lot of it is. So no nuclear related anything. That part Iran won't budge on. The U.S., like I said, had previously given up the number 2 demand, which was very clearly coming from the Israeli government, which was no, Iran was to have like no more just like regular missiles in general, which was really stupid. No country would ever agree to that. That one did get dropped pretty quickly, but the U.S. was holding on to the no nuclear anything portion, while Iran was only willing to agree to the no nukes, no nuclear warheads portion. Now, as of the newly conveyed proposal, Iran is willing to talk about uh, potentially reducing other nuclear stuff, but not willing to literally sign a thing giving up all nuclear stuff altogether. So there's now apparently going to be a fresh meeting, theoretically early next week, so like Monday or Tuesday, and maybe some additional things will be allowed through as a point of gesture in between now and then, but there is no certainty about that. Price wise, well, let me show you for one, the market prices. the gambling prices, the ones that are detached from reality, are for WTI 102, for Brent's up at 109. Meanwhile, the actual physical price being paid by people receiving the oil, after having dropped down from close to 150 down to about 130, is now going back up through the 140s and is heading towards 150 again. Still not the 173 peak that was seen between 2 and 3 weeks into the war. But, if the thing holds like this and nothing budges, more than a fair chance that that's going to be seen again or exceeded. And over in the area where I'm stranded, where I've been in exile since 2020 happened, forced to flee from my beloved Arctic darkness of Alaska down to the southern US, in the general area around where my parents live, and thus where I'm in exile. The prices, show everybody again, as always. This was before the war. Oops, no, click. And this was as high as it's gotten after the war. This was the day after, before we went to the Golden Corral, which is a awesome buffet restaurant, with Josh a few days after his birthday. But this is as high as it's gotten, and they dropped back down to like 370 for a week, and now they're back up to right here. No one has yet had it in them to be the first one to cross the threshold into the $4 per gallon mark. Uh, the 399.99999 all nines. Dial all nines for which lawyer commercial was that? George Green, I think. Dial all nines. Uh, yeah, it was like, always think George Green when your car collides. Call like 9999999 or something. Or no, like 147, dial 147 all nines. Uh, so they're still, as of today, right under four, and some of them are trying to one up each other, trying to do some undercuts by, oops, we have to well screw it. Some of them are trying to do some undercuts in manner of, like, some of them are still 399, while other stations have dropped it down to 398, and then other competitors still in other on other streets have dropped to like 397. So they're trying to do one ups on each other, but if nothing budges, then next week we're past the pale of an excuse for them still being able to get away with keeping it under $4 a gallon. Time to chug some water. I only just realized I forgot to tell Josh that I was starting the stream. Oh, and Guyana's Guyana's oil production will be jumping a bit sooner than expected. It was initially not thought that the next field would be coming online until like the end of this year, but they are actually ahead of schedule with that. So Guyana's been repeatedly having like the opposite experience as Azerbaijan, which we'll get to in a second. Guyana's next field will be coming online within the next couple months, actually. So several months sooner than expected, and that will be another jump of 250,000 per day. Brazil has another field expansion down there somewhere that will be coming online This year, there will be another 200,000 barrel per day boost. Not coming online anytime soon, but there was a discovery offshore on this shelf area now that they're starting up here. And since you can see the shelf area up here is not so much a slope as it is more a flat fan. And as expected, like I said, usually in a more flat area, you're going to tend to find uh, gas to be predominant instead of oil. So the finds they've started making here have been gas heavy. And this one from a few days ago was actually purely a natural gas field and a fairly large one actually offshore of this general area. I think the comparison they made was like it if the assumed amounts like worked out to production compared to other fields, it would probably be between half a billion and a billion cubic feet per day. But most of the Guyana stuff has been found offshore in the bowl curve slope area. They haven't actually done a lot of stuff close in the closer offshore area where it's more flat, where they would likely find gas. And the assessment stuff in Venezuela. Now that Chevron and the other various oil majors have looked, they said the stuff they can most immediately deal with and fix pretty quickly should equate to uh, by early next year being able to get Venezuela from 1.1 up to about 1.6, maybe 1.7 million barrels per day. We'll have to see what it actually comes out to be, obviously. Ah, and there goes my throat. What was the other? I mentioned something. Azerbaijan. So Azerbaijan has been having a really bad time, like the opposite of Guyana. Whereas everything is constantly going well for Guyana, Azerbaijan has not been having such a good time. So in their one remaining like untouched area, they have the one big field left that they have yet to bring online. There will be like their one last boost, their one last hurrah, before they then continue permanently down their terminal decline slope. And that field is expected to be, I think it was 60,000 or it might be 80,000 barrel per day boost. So it will be like a sudden upsurge. If it magically started right now, for instance, they would jump from about 540 up to either 600 or 620 and then start declining from that point. But that field was initially supposed to come on at the end of 2024, and then they kept having installation and maintenance problems with all the stuff related to it, one after another, delay after delay. And so now it had been pushed back to the second half of this year. And apparently, some stuff like went busted so wrong on some of the ships that are doing some of the work for it, or trying to get the work right at least, that they now have said uh, to just cancel hopes of that and assume that it likely won't come online until the second half of next year or even the first half of 2028. So, like I said, Azerbaijan's constantly running into like the opposite experience of Guyana. Everything that can go wrong as they're trying to develop their remaining offshore stuff is constantly going wrong. Ah, okay. okay, if they choose to, but the point isn't something that they can't attack. The point is being able to get around Hormuz. Not the on water assets, because the anti ship missiles would not really make it through. They could send like a wave of hundreds of Shahed drones, but those are pre-programmed, uh, like meant for hitting stationary targets, just like the ballistic missiles are. The uh, hold on, how far is Diego Garcia? Where's the measuring stick? There we go. Out. Where is right here? I think it's part of this. Yes. Uh, this isn't Google Earth, so there's no actual measuring stick, but hold up. Let's see, the circle is usually drawn like this or something. That's not a circle, but uh, looks like that would be either just out of or just inside of range. So that would be more like depending on how the reentry goes and like atmospheric conditions, probably in the area of like ambiguous. Some portion of them would probably fall short on their own, like irregardless of any like interception stuff. But any like actual maximum range is not precisely known because everything Iran wants to fire like missiles at is literally right here. So they've never had anything like targeted beyond that. And their primary focus has been improving accuracy of stuff. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not going to need that anymore. Fluctuating here, and then everybody dropped. Oh, well, as I reached the end of the war stuff. And then I started talking about just regular oil and gas stuff. And that's where the interest dies. Let's see. There's nothing else that I'm aware of. I'll be publishing the actual electricity demand levels update video uh, probably tomorrow. And there are a number of countries missing. We're entering another phase where people are starting to get irresponsible with their data publishing. Looking at you, Brazil. But anyways, I already said last time China dropped from 1.12 terawatts down to 1.08, and that was over the course of March at least. Whereas they most likely otherwise would have climbed a little bit up to like 1.14 as they head towards summer, which is they're one of the ones who peaks in summer for electricity demand versus say Japan and like Russia, for example, peak in the winter usually. So China is curtailing electricity demand or making uh, sizable efforts at it to attempt to specifically be able to dial down the degree of natural gas fired power generation so they can limit their gas imports to to a point where just the LNG from Australia will suffice enough. Uh, Taiwan has been doing the same. They were at about 33 before everything started. Now they've gone down to, I believe it was 28. So they've done over a 15% demand reduction over the last, and those were for a start of April. So that was just over the course of March. And South Korea did, what were they? They were at 73 or 74. So we'll put 73/4. And as of the end of March, start of April, they had reduced to 68. And are going to be trying to curtail down further than that, obviously, so that they can reduce their natural gas import requirements. They are going to compensate some of that power generation with additional coal from either the US or Australia, as they have idled or reduced operating coal fire capacity that's been on like low burn standby. Vietnam is not going down, they're just not going up, as they were at their lowest demand point of the year, and instead of heading up, they're like they normally would be, they're staying down closer to 30 instead of 40. And Japan has, by the end of March, had only dropped down in electricity demand by 2%. Their oil demand, they cut back pretty readily, pretty quickly. Electricity demand went down by 2%, but their natural gas usage, they were able to, coincidentally, this wasn't because of the war, this was just something that was already on schedule. They were able to displace specifically, or because of the war, they chose to specifically displace some natural gas-fired power generation instead of the coal-fired power generation they originally intended to replace. But one of their another one of their nuclear power plants is now restarting, doing the first two reactors, and then the second two uh, are supposed to be restarted later this year, although they're now supposedly going to move up that schedule, obviously. So that was 2 gigawatts of nuclear coming on over the course of these last few months that they were able to displace 2 gigawatts of natural gas-fired power generation with. And they've gone back up. Before activating those two, they had already gone back up over the last 3 years from 0 back up to either 12 or 13. So that would now put them at either 14 or 15. And thus, if it went on the normal schedule, if it doesn't get an early go ahead, if they activate the other two, then later this year or sooner than that, they will then obviously go up by another additional 2 gigawatts, of which they will almost certainly choose to displace natural gas-fired power generation instead of coal-fired, since they tend to get a decent portion of the gas from the Persian Gulf, although they also get a decent bit of LNG from the US and Australia as well. But if they reduce just enough, like China did, then the LNG from the US and Australia will be able to completely suffice. Oh, right. I think that was everything on the list specifically. Uh, Other than random like minor update stuff, Argentina is going to be getting over 1 million barrels per day this year instead of not until next year. So additional alternative supply stuff entering. Also, their overall capacity for the Vaca Muerte is likely going to see them able to end up at a total peak of 1.6 or 1.7 million barrels per day instead of the initial 1 point like 3 that was expected. Now they won't be able to hold that for too long. Can probably pull that for like maybe a decade or so once they hit it, as the Vaca Muerte is not like massive, like say the Permian. It's more Eagle Ford sized. Yeah. And what was the other one? Libya. Libya will be bringing, or rather not bringing online new stuff, restoring previous stuff that used to operate pre 2011. Additional stuff in the next few months that will see them go up from around 1.45 or 1.47 at the moment up to somewhere between 1.6 and 1.7 million barrels per day before the end of this year. So Libya is actually succeeding. They are gradually restoring stuff, and they're going to be passing their pre 2011 levels and actually getting back to their original capabilities, which they had previously, like back in the 70s and 80s. They had been holding a plateau more around like 2, sometimes closer to 2.5. They are likely capable of 3, maybe a bit above 3. We're not really certain, but they are most likely capable of like a 3 million barrel per day plateau. And Libya actually has quite a bit under the ground, even just the stuff that has already been discovered, not accounting for like the unexplored areas down here and stuff. But they would likely be able to hold a 3 million barrel per day plateau if they got up to it until around 2060 or so. But the idea is for them to get up to there by 2030, and uh, that's that's the starting point for the math. Is if they do get up to that a 3 million barrel per day plateau by 2030, they, given what's in the ground, would most likely be able to hold that until about 2060, and then they would reach the halfway point, and the capability would start to taper, and so they'd enter a really, really gradual decline. Now, that could be it. I'm just going to peruse around. I don't think there was anything else that I'm forgetting. Oh, no, never mind. I forgot something again. Uh, Down offshore here of Australia, more stuff is being done. A lot of stuff got sort of speed cracked, speed stamped or speed approved. There's a moderate sized oil field out there that's going to be actually developed now. Shouldn't be a huge amount, but maybe something like 50 or 60,000 barrels a day. But it'll add a bit to Australia's domestic security. And also, Australia looks like it's peaking Before even the war started, it was looking just about like it was starting to, curve off there instead of actually going all the way up to 1.2. It was looking like it was starting to, or it was going to probably curve off at 1.1 million barrels per day. Yeah. Okay, for the fourth time, that should be it. Nothing else there, or there, or there, or there. No. All right. Water time. What? Use coal? Blah blah. Japan. Japan kind of. They had coal. They dug up most of it, but I mean, there is still some there, just not really. Japan is, it's not those kinds of mountains. You typically, you don't find, you don't usually find coal in like the tall kind of mountains, in the plate boundary pushed and shoved up kind of mountains. You tend to find coal more in hills and in low, less tall, more inland non-plate boundary mountains. Like for example, the Appalachians in the U.S., which are hills, they're not mountains. I don't care what Appalachian people try to say. Yeah, like that's also why there's more coal like up here in the lower like northern portion downsloping from the Alps, the hills portion. For example, like for Europe, that's where a lot of Europe's coal was. Or in the UK, in the quote unquote mountains of the UK. Although the UK is what you might be thinking Japan is. The UK is the one who actually still has a lot of stuff but doesn't touch anything anymore. Still has coal, still has iron, still has tin. Uh, does not mine any of it. Basically, if that one comment was referring to like coal to liquid stuff, the what was the break even the economic feasibility price for that in 2007 was hold on what I don't want inflation calculator images. I want just inflation calculator. There we go. Let's see. In it was 2007, but it was said to be in the 70s per barrel. Back when 70 was considered a high price. So let's see. For safety, we'll do 80. 130, it looks like, is where Or if you want to stay down in the 70s, then that would obviously translate to like the 120s per barrel is thus in modern dollars where the economic feasibility or profitability would come out for it. That's of course if that's being done privately by companies that are seeking to profit from it, not if it's just being flat out subsidized or covered for, like in the case of South Africa, uh, who make sure to keep it propped and running for the sake of security. Australia does actually have two plants. They've been running on minimal capacity, obviously, but if they had to, Australia could defer to those. They just don't have that high of a total output. I think combined they would be like 150,000 barrels per day, maybe. And the U.S. has several. Like there's the one in North Dakota, and then I think there's one in Ohio and one in either Virginia or Pennsylvania. Combined, they're something like 200 or 250,000, which is only about 2% of, or about 1% of the U.S.'s usual consumption. But the U.S. also has demand wiggle room because remember, half, almost half of the U.S. demand is gasoline consumption from personal automobiles. So the higher the gas price goes, the lower that number starts to quickly curve off. In fact, actually, it went from it already declined from 9.3 down to around 8.6 or 8.7 million barrels per day for gasoline consumption specifically. But the U.S. is not in a oil supply specific worrying position. The issue on our end would be more various types of imported products, like the eventual slowdown and constraint in electronics production, for example, if the helium issue continues, because Algeria dialing it up to compensate for the lost. I don't care, Google, piss off. Algeria dialing up their helium capacity to compensate for the lost capacity from Qatar is not instantaneous. They are turning it up though, as they could extract. There's more helium in their gas than there actually is in Qatar's gas. So despite only having, they're now averaging around 12 billion cubic feet per day. Now that they're rapidly upping capacity, the despite only having about 60% of Qatar's gas production, Algeria does have the capacity to produce about the same amount of helium, but they have not been operating at that because everybody else kind of price undercut them. It was the same with developing the gas. So they can dial that up, but that will take, they said, about a year or so before they can get up close to what Qatar was putting out for helium. But they have upped it already. They were only doing like 10 million cubic meters per year, and they've upped so far since everything started to like 15 or 16 million cubic meters per year. It hasn't been a year, but the current rate of helium extraction would, if run for a year, obviously now equal out to 15 or 16 million cubic meters per year. Uh, But the secret, not secret obviously because they have to exist, but the secret thing that no one, types of tankers that no one usually thinks about, helium tankers, are now going to have to go to Algeria. But what that's stem from? Oh yeah, oil wise, like the U.S. is down to 13.5, while for supply, while about 3.5 is coming down from Canada, which thus puts you up 17. About half a mil combined, coming from Ecuador and Colombia, or sorry, rather, yeah, actually, they're a little bit less than half a year. Or sorry, half a mil. It's more like 400,000 plus about 600 coming from Venezuela. Not as much as it could be because the U.S. is deferring the Venezuelan, uh, the extra bit of Venezuelan stuff over to Israel. But so then that puts you up at 18, and then half and half of Guyana goes to us. The other half goes to Europe. So that's 18.5. A lot of most of Brazil's exports go to Europe and China, but about half a mil a day comes to the US. That's 19. So that extra 1 million barrel per day or so was usually, sourced from whoever was next on the open market list in the Gulf. So for complete clearance, you'd only need to go down, by about one more, million barrels per day of demand. On average, overall, over the course of time, it's been about 20. For the 2 months before the war started, it was closer to 21. As of the last update, you saw on the demand levels, we have contracted demand wise down to 19.7 from being more around like 20.7 or 20.8 pre-war. And the like travel and leisure trips cancellations are also continuing. So jet fuel is now starting to come down a bit as well. And let's see, South Korea finally did get a bit better stuff from them more recent. So they initially, as reported, went from 2.8 down 2.5. Now, more recently, they are apparently down closer to 2, like 2.1 or 2.2 or something million barrels per day for their domestic consumption. So they have managed to draw back by quite a bit. And Indonesia, I believe, after seeing the post-war stuff, went from being around 2.2 or just under 2.2, right before the war started, down. They went down by a few 100,000 in demand so far. So they're back under 2. So the demand destruction thus far outside of the Gulf, because remember, the Gulf countries don't count because they can consume the oil they produce right then and there. It doesn't have to be shipped to them. The primary concern in this case is, or numbers that count, are countries in the outside world that would be on the receiving end of that oil, and other seaborne exports from elsewhere and whether that balances out. Demand destruction from all this is now over 5 million barrels per day, and will likely be close to 6 by the end of next week. Blah blah. Into it. Uh, what do you mean using a nuclear rocket engine for for a missile? Like for a weaponized missile? That would be really idiotic. You'd be spending a huge amount of money. You'd really be wasting money on that one. Nuclear rocket engines are a brilliant thing to use for space travel because they cut the time massively. They kind of let us instead of having to do the gradual parabolic expansion and careful capture by another body. If you get, if you have huge excess power, you can kind of start to step outside the rules and to sort of go tangential line and like brute force your way out to something. And you would normally, in that case, send yourself like hurtling by it. But if you have such a powerful thing, you can then kind of brute force your way back in once you get there and, twist gravity's arm, so to speak, into getting an orbit that you otherwise would have overshot. It wouldn't be like Ad Astra, where they go to Mars in like 16 days, but it would be. I think they said it would be like 3 months instead of 8 months or something, or at least that would be the safest limit they'd be willing to do it. Like in the orbits, with one here and like one one here, or it's going to be there, although it's technically here at the moment. That would be like the safest semi-curving tangential line that they'd be they'd be willing to go with, as opposed to doing like a really fast one, because the more you stretch the limits, then the worse off things get, or the less room you have to actually correct yourself. But 3 months instead of 8 months would be really, really nice. That would be a lot less cosmic ray risk and also a lot less psychological burden. Let me see. Did we? Oh, we got people back. Actually, interesting. Uh, MSRI. I don't know what MSR. I know what SMNRs are. I don't know what. I don't know what the MSR is. I'll look that up later. Unless that's just an abbreviation for multi-stage rocket. The only hyper compact energy density nuclear reactor things. Oh, molten salt. Molten salt. Okay, I forgot that abbreviation. I'm used to just referring to those as burner reactors. The ones where the reactions arranged in such a way where you can you actually put waste into it, you put spent fuel rods in, and you have things arranged in such a way. Uh, I don't I don't do nuclear physics. I'm far more of a organic chemistry and molecular biology type of person. Uh, the it's set up in such a nuclear reaction way that you use spent fuel rods mixed in with different types of fuel. The usual one that's proposed is thorium because it's obscenely abundant, but you can still also just use regular uranium and then use the regular uranium spent fuel rods from that as the next round of spent fuel rods. Uh, but it's arranged in such a way that it would actually consume the waste, so to speak, not like make it go away, but it perpetuates the breakdown into a set of nuclear products that is nuclear end stage products that are only hazardously radioactive for like between 80 and 120 years instead of 10 to 20,000 years, which would be really beneficial. But no one has wanted to do it up until recently because burner reactors, which are what I just got used to calling them that, they are like they're down to now theoretically only being twice as expensive as a regular nuclear plant instead of three times. But no one's like lining up to cross that expense threshold, even though it would be like a big beneficial thing because we could quite literally get rid of all of the world's nuclear waste by reusing it as fuel again and having it come out as end waste products that are only harmful for like 1 century and then have uh, then cease to be at harmful levels after that. There were there have been a few research reactors in that regard that have proven different concepts in the U.S., Russia, and I think China did one. And the only country I know that's actually building them like for reals, for serious to use is India. India built a research one that was to like reconfirm the process and now is starting to actually use it. And they have another one under construction that they are building for the sake of using. So they're going to be getting rid of their nuclear waste. I think it's overall the overall benefit is from the fact that they consume the waste and get rid of the deadly stuff as a fuel. They do they do have like a lower overall output per amount or something. But there's a way to get around that with specific design that has to do with like having the water in a specific setup that effectively makes it behave like a supercritical fluid without actually being a supercritical fluid. So that the the drag and molecular interaction of the water with like the metal pipes it's with itself and with the fan blades and the turbine effectively stops and only the force remains and it lets it lets the blades be turned a lot more easily, not like a ridiculous amount but to a point where if you applied that design to any specific reactor it would increase the power yield from it, the electricity yield by like 20 to 30%. But yeah, a lot of that is stuff we really could have been doing for some time. Because kind of we got the idea how in the 80s and just started kind of like playing around since then, but never really did anything. Now, over the last 10 years, we've finally decided to like actually get out of bed. Uh, sodium batteries. Uh, there is a design that finally works now, which, if it is able to circumvent the power density issue, it could supplant the whole lithium thing, the whole lithium-based designs, uh, you, and actually put things back in a achievable game frame. For now, though, uh, there there now is a working design that is being like factory produced that gets around the whole battery literally inflates because it heats up issue, but it does not have anywhere near the power density as the current like lithium ion batteries do, the various different designs. So it either will it will either be like half the range, but still be able to achieve the same amounts of power or vehicle velocity, or or if it's set up in a different way, it would be able to have like similar operational range or time, but it would only be able to like output half as much power. So, oops, I forgot. Thought I was using the mouse. So that's going to take a while still to maybe get that to work. But if it does, the sodium design uses aluminum in place of where nickel is used in all the various lithium designs. So that would be quite a great escape from various resource constraints. But as I said, it's currently in its current state, uh, can only really hold about half the energy for the average density compared to current other battery design types. That could improve in the future, but that's going to be a while, even if it does. Coal question. I saw a coal. Coal already is being deferred to. Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan are starting to switch back on their idled coal capacity and import more coal from the US and Australia primarily, or sorry, and some from Indonesia now as well. Deutschland, the ever idiot that you have become after shutting off all of its nuclear power plants, has now, to avoid the natural gas issues, been starting to once again switch over to utilizing more coal. They technically would have enough gas because they basically get theirs from Norway, but to help with general stabilization and let some be deferred elsewhere through the continent, they have been diving down on some of their gas-fired power generation, and similar stories and whatnot elsewhere. Uh, the water as fuel thing that's not a thing that's real. Water is not a fuel. Water can provide fuel by being turned into hydrogen and oxygen. But to do that, you have to either perform electrolysis or use a fuel cell, uh, which which requires a utilization of energy to do so. It does not the water itself is not the thing that's actually providing it. There is an external additional portion. It's a two-parter. No, I don't go around looking at quotes or watching what everybody's saying. I have the few feeds that I run through, looking for that are usually just straight up showings, or summaries of things that have happened with the attached clips or kill cams or satellite photos, and numbers. Uh, quite a lot of times, those will include specific quotes from like Trump or whatever, but that's not usually what I'm looking for. Like if Germany actually if like the German legislature suddenly started discussing or putting forth plans to reactivate the nuclear power plants, that is something that would like show up in front of me. But just somebody like remarking that something was a mistake is usually not something that's going to come up. Okay, that has been way longer than I initially intended it was going to be. Let me make sure these are synced. Synced. I don't think there's anything missing between the two. No. Okay. All right. So before I end it, uh, after first showing you guys, where is it? The official over here. Showing you guys, as usual, everything thus far. I have four character art pieces, although five characters in total, that Anya has done now. Whereas writing wise, I am up to almost being done with episode 5. So we have five characters thus far. The three main characters, Andem, Alem, and Mepria. And then I think they're back up here. Yes. And then Ash and Ban are over here. And we have multiple scenes now. This would be the very ending scene of episode 1. And these are the different versions of what would be the second to last scene in episode 2. Switch through here, and then the transparent one here. So that's all the actual official artwork stuff that's done for the moment, and won't be able to get anything this month. All right, see you. The won't be able to get anything this month because I'm gonna have to drop like $900 to get a new laptop, but we'll let anyone who's still here get to see this. This is not complete. This is a work in progress, but this is a general map of this fictional world that Dream War takes place in. Like I said, their historic and technological time frame is roughly equivalent to early 1920s, except their version of what will be kind of a combination of World War One and Two in a single conflict has not yet occurred. So there is a lot of stuff. There are a lot of changes that are going to end up coming to this. The striped lines, if something has striped lines, that means that that region or that country is occupied as it's claimed as part of an empire, but is not truly pacified. It's in actual open rebellion pretty consistently. There are there are pieces that are like actually pacified that are parts of specific empires that usually the shading will match. I have to go through and make sure everything matches. Like these three are part of the Walash or Walandian Empire, which is this world's version of the British Empire, which actually is one of the primary antagonistic forces in this world's version of the First/Second World War or World War 1.5. They're the strongest of the antagonist nations, but some rough equivalents of the Ottoman Empire kind of exists, but in two pieces. So a lot of what was the European portion of the Ottoman Empire in real life in this world is a separate entity from the Middle Eastern portion called the Chaldean Empire, primarily revolving around and governed by, for the moment, until I name it properly, we'll just call it Evil Romania. And then the large Middle Eastern portion is the Ottoman Empire, which is instead of Turkey in this world, was formed and conquered by and is under the thumb of basically Saudi Arabia, since Saudi Arabia needs to finally get the actual villain treatment that they have started to earn themselves. And there are not everything that's quote unquote like part of specific empires is shaded or listed as such. There are a number of pseudo independent nations that are kind of just puppets, but I have to add like specific labels to that later. Persian Empire is actually, or an equivalent to them in the form of Parasef, is kind of still there, uh, but they are rapidly withering in this particular time frame. So, as I always have done when I've made fictional universes in the past, it's just usually not been for anything serious. It's usually been more for like fanfic stuff. Uh, the world in general, I keep roughly like in the same frame, like it's generally recognizable. Like the same continents for all intents and purposes are there, but I do shake up the actual geography, move stuff around, increase some landmass in some areas, decrease in others, shift mountain ranges around. You can't see where any like mountain ranges or topography stuff is on this map because this is a political map. But usually it should immediately be recognizable as like 15% deferred from the real world map. And that should, oh, yeah, that was, yeah, this the map for the Dream War world. I need to give Obsida a different color because I just realized it matches Quenral, which kind of give the impression that it might be like a colony of Quenral, but it is not. It was a colony of Walland, just like Australia was a colony of the UK in real life. However, uh, it got, instead of being let go in 1901 or their equivalent year of 1901, Walland was holding on to it, but uh, with weapons funneling from Egal, which is obviously this world's equivalent of the US, it got a chance to break away while Walland was heavily distracted because every 30 years or so, there's a decent, usually a decent war between Walland and Novlat. And during the last one, about 20 years ago, there was also additional distraction because Katim, who also owns these little pieces down here on southern Africa after those yummy, yummy minerals, did try to do some snatch and grab. So Walland had to fight two large military opponents on two different fronts and really just eventually uh, dubbed Obsida not worth straining a third front over and sort of put them in a temporary file of we'll take it back later. But they have been unable to do so because other things have come up in the meantime, like Dabu breaking free, and also Burkina Fever 7 is now in like full open revolt, and they're starting to get mistrusting of Hali, which is, I need to put a parentheses under there, is independent, quote unquote, but is actually Wallane's puppet, similar to how Luxil over here is independent in theory, but is actually Katim's puppet. And I need to switch that. I don't. That should not be the same color as Ingastali. That should be the same color as Fluron. Yeah, this is not final. There are still additional changes that need to be made to this, but I do have. Hold on, let me check to make sure it's not out here first. There's those. Just make sure it didn't come out here. Okay, it didn't. So it should be in here. I do have a closer up, more detailed one of this world's Europe. So this is the European setup. You got Lacam, which is evil Spain, and is Yes, I did kind of just draw the name from ripping the word Latam and replacing it with a C. Sahrok is supposed to be Lakam's last remaining colony, but Sahrok doesn't really feel like being Lakam's last remaining colony, so they're in open rebellion at the start of the story. This little piece uh, still belongs to Floron at the start. Fenakot is a semi-independent buffer state that was created between the two of them. Ingastali is obviously Italy. Francia is Deutschland. Walland is Britain slash the British Empire. I just took Ireland and the UK and I smashed everything into the Scandinavian peninsula and made it like one big thing. So it's kind of a hybrid group between the Brits and the Norse and the Swedes. And there's different types of nations. There's like completely mixed nations. There's humans only nations. There's upright only nations. Uprights are the short for upright animals. It's the word in this universe that's used for the different anthro species. So there's humans only nations. There's upright only nations. There's humans first nations and uprights first nations. Like Ingastali, for example, is a humans first nation, where the upright species are treated like, in Ingastali in particular, uh, worse than like Jim Crow stuff, but not uh, not as bad as like slavery or immediate post-slavery stuff. Then there's Caucayan Empire, which contains several spoiler nations that eventually shatter and break free when the Caucayan Empire is defeated during the war. But Caucayan Empire is uh, ruled by evil Romania, who I'll have to give a name at some point. Animit, Iliosakti, Krim, Zaruzhno, Novlap, and the Baltics are at this particular point still a colony of Walland, and that is where the constant back and forth comes between Walland and Novlap, like the war that happened 20 years before the start of the story, during which fictional Australia was able to use the distraction to break free. But this is the only one that I've done like a closer up version, and any cities that appear are not there because they're large. They all are large cities, but if they appear at this moment, at least, if I've already put them here, it's because they're a specific place that actually appears in the story or that the characters are at some point in time. So I need to delete these. That's no longer that particular flag design. Let's see. This is now the Egal flag. Raise the. There are a million different ways you could possibly mean that. Oh, sorry. I did not read the comment beneath it. Yes. Like I said, there's a lot of different things though, because the topography is not exactly the same. Just like how the geography and shape of things is also not exactly the same. So there's plenty of mountain ranges that are like in the same area, but there's also mountain ranges that are no longer there and are instead in some other area. And all the other associated factors and things. But now that's going to be the end of this one. I ended up going for an hour and a half. This was originally supposed to be 20 minutes. All right. I will post the electricity video tomorrow, hopefully, unless I'm dead. And then hold on. Let me check one more thing. Or no, not electricity, over here. Uh, the EIA never actually updated the regular monthly data over here. That's why everything was so wacky with the non-OPEC production stuff, because I was having to actually individually rip data out of the hands of all the countries by myself, and can't go further. So they're still back there. So they still have not updated. It's supposed to update within the first few days of each month. Never updated for April. So I have to see if they update on time this month and if they like do a double month to compensate. Okay, yeah, that's where this is ending, and I will see you guys next time.